Let's bring on Geno Bell, former Razorback and a member of the broadcast crew. Joins me and Rick Schaefer for the Learfield pregame. Then he's on the sidelines during the game.
Where it gets lit.
And it gets lit. And the chains get dropped. So you can hear him laughing back there because we use that.
It's in our open now.
Geno, that's in our open. It's lit down here as part of our open. So congratulations for already contributing to our show.
Man, that's outstanding. I tell you, the win last week, it definitely was lit. It was completely off the chain. I have not seen Razorback Stadium that full, that much excitement in a very long time, and it is great to see that Razorback energy come back to Fayetteville.
Absolutely, absolutely. So how do you recreate that? Which, of course, you can't recreate that for tomorrow. And for me, going into this game against Georgia Southern, like that's the story for me. You know, part of the reason that it seemed Arkansas played so well against Texas, and this is outside of the physical attributes of, you know, what they showed, the atmosphere, the fans, the rivalry, national TV, the spotlight around the nation was on Fayetteville. You don't have any of that tomorrow. You don't even have a Power 5 opponent. So I feel like we'll learn a bit about this team and their ability to get up for an opponent that they need to beat badly.
Yes, and I would tell you, Arkansas is not good enough to overlook any opponent. We're just not getting back on the winning wagon just over this year. I mean, we're very fortunate to start the game and this year with 3 home games, and that played to our advantage. And, you know, last week was a great game. You know, we were able to make some ground beef last week, and the one thing I called Texas was 50 cents because they were only able to score in 2 quarters. And so that was the great thing to be able to see. But also, as we look forward to this week, we cannot be having a hangover. We need to come out and attack. We need to be able to put points up. And the one great thing that this team has done over the past 2 games, and I anticipated to be again this week, is the running game. When you think about the running game, when you have a 4-headed monster in the background, in the backfield, where we rush for 333 yards and 4 touchdowns in the win, I mean, that's outstanding. We dominated Texas from the start and finish. We won on the offensive and defensive line, and everybody knows that's how you win in this league in the SEC. It's starting with the offensive defensive line, and we dominated up front. And so when we get into the game this week, we need to not pick up where, we need to pick up where we left off. We need to go in and dominate, and this will be a perfect opportunity for more players to play and also continue to build our depth as we go into first SEC play next week against Texas A&M.
Yeah, got to keep the momentum going, got to keep the intensity up, can't take any weeks off, and we know what happens if you take weeks off later in the season. You get beat, and get beat pretty bad against SEC opponents. But you're the perfect person to talk about this. And Georgia Southern running a triple option, and when you, as a defensive lineman, when you play a team that runs triple options, you got to watch out for your knees. How concerned are you about defensive lineman injuries this week when you face a triple option team that really likes to go low?
I would tell you, in my mind, I'm pretty sure they worked on that this week to ensure you get your hands on the opponent. That's the great thing about defensive line. It's all about technique, hand placement, and play with your eyes. And when you play a triple option, back in my day, that was big. And for those who know the 90s football, that was real big with Nebraska football, right? The triple option with Tommy Frazier. But teams have got away from that to more of the spread. But when we get into the triple option this week, it's all about discipline and play with your eyes. So as a defensive lineman, you have to ensure that the dive is taken. The linebacker has the quarterback, and the safety coming downhill has the pitch. We don't need anybody to be heroes this week. You got to play gap control defense, play your technique, but most importantly, trust your eyes and make the play.
You mentioned something just a moment ago, Geno, about defensive line play, which I think is difficult to see, on television or from anywhere in the stands, and it's how you use your hands. And you're down there on the field now, so you probably get a much better look at how the defensive linemen utilize their hands in order to get leverage. And that's one thing that I forget who it was that brought it up, because it wasn't John Ridgway. He was speaking about John Ridgway and how his athleticism is noticeable with his hands, and pointed out that he was a state wrestling champion in Illinois. So, I don't know if I ask you if you've seen something from his hands or whatever like that, but I mean, this is the kind of thing that you can't necessarily get a sense on television as to why defensive linemen are playing as well as they are.
I would say the one thing that I will tell everybody who's listening is the coaching staff is outstanding. When you see those defensive linemen come off the football, they lead with their hands. Their head doesn't hit first. And so they're able to get extension. They're locking their hands inside, and they're able to come off the block. So the first thing they tell you, when you feel the pressure of where the offensive linemen want to push you, you know to go against it because the ball is going right behind that lineman. But the one thing I take my hats off to Coach Pittman and the entire coaching staff is that we did an outstanding job in the transfer portal. When you think about the three defensive linemen that we brought in, the two from Missouri and Ridgeway from Illinois State, I mean, I didn't know what to anticipate from an Illinois State player coming in, but he played big-time football last week. 6'5", he's big. He was able to take up a couple blocks. And when you look at a defensive line that's running 3 and you can take on 5, that's where you see the linebackers roam. And like Hayden Henry last week had 15 tackles. He wouldn't be able to do that if those offensive linemen were coming off and getting to the second level. And so I say the defensive lineman is playing outstanding. We need to continue that into this week because that's going to gear us up for this SEC run that we're getting ready to go on.
Geno, body language says so much about how a person is feeling about him or herself or the group that they're a part of. And you've done seasons where Arkansas was coached by Chad Morris. Now in the second season of Sam Pittman as the head coach. And I know you're laughing back there, so you know exactly what I'm asking about. But, I mean, it's noticeable on the field there's a difference. I can only imagine when you're watching them on the sidelines, like it's night and day, in the attitude of this team during the game. Because I'm watching them a little bit from up in the booth, and then the sideline, man, everybody seems locked in for the most part.
And I totally agree with that. Coach Pittman has done an outstanding job coming in, set the expectations. And the one thing I've learned in my playing career and also my professional career, people don't rise to low expectations. And so he set the bar high, and he's a player's coach. I've talked to several players, and they love him because he's a man of his word, and that's what you can respect. The other thing when you talk about this team is that he's a big, perfect practice make perfect. And I continue to hear people say, yeah, you got to practice hard. But it's just not practicing. It's ensuring that you're practicing the right thing. And when you practice hard, when you get into the game, it's easy. Because as we saw with Texas, they wasn't ready for the physicality that we brought. Because to play in this conference, you have to be physical. Coach Pittman is physical in practice. He expects perfection. And then when we get in the game, you have fun. The other thing that I think Coach Carter does an outstanding job on the sideline as well as Coach Browse, they make adjustments. They don't wait till you get to halftime to make adjustments. They're having conversations with the players on the field, coming off and saying, this is what I'm hearing upstairs from the booth. What are you seeing? And they get on the whiteboard. That's one thing that was missing that actually reminds me of my days playing and even under Coach Nutt, the way these players get on the whiteboard with the coaches. And that's one thing I love to see because everybody is immersed in the game and really trying to accomplish what they need to get the win.
You talked earlier about the run game that we've seen the last 2 weeks and that hopefully will continue into week 3. And now that you've established that run game, do you think this is the game in the week where we get to see KJ really open it up with the arm and Traylon Burks has that big game that – while he's had good games first 2 weeks, he hasn't really had that game, if you know what I mean yet. Is this the week for it?
I would tell you this is the week. I know most people say, they want KJ to throw the football, but it's hard to throw the football when you're running up 330 yards on the ground. It's not forcing you to run. When you look at the offense last week, we only punted twice. And so to me, that lets me know that we're moving the football down the field. We're average 7.1 yards a play. That's almost a first down every time we touch the football. And so when you think about the things that we're doing, the things that we're doing are great. And so people say, can KJ throw the football? Of course he can throw the football. When you look at what he did against Missouri last year, we know he can throw the football. And then this year, he hadn't thrown the ball much. But when you look at the Rice game and you come around and look at last week's game, I mean, his percentage increased significantly. He went from the low 50s, I believe it was, the week before against Rice. He completed 73% of his passes last week. He did not get sacked one time last week. And so when you think about the offense, I truly believe the passing game is predicated on the run. And when we set the run up, it's definitely going to open up the pass. And so this week, I believe this is going to be big. Georgia Southern has a very weak passing defense. And so this will be a perfect opportunity to get Traylon Burks the ball, get him going, because we really hadn't had to depend on him. But it'll be good to get him going and then see who's our second and third receivers, because we're going to need to know who they are as we get into SEC play.
We'll wrap it up here with Geno in a moment. Drew, last year, the broadcast crew traveled via a tour bus from Justin Moore's tour bus company,
really,
for all of the road games, and it was just the broadcast crew that traveled while the football team flew. So Geno, you know, I know you get to fly with the team this year. You've got to be missing the bus and the road trips and everything that went into, and you've got a full-time job too. And from what I understand, you were working pretty hard while you were on the bus last year.
Yes, I did, and you know, I have a full-time job that definitely takes up a lot of time, and I love what I do during the day. But I think I will miss the bus games. I was actually having a conversation with my son, Nicholas. He plays over at Bentonville West, and he asked me that same question. And I said yes, because the one thing that we did on the bus, we spent several hours together, and I had the opportunity to get to know Z very well. I had the opportunity to get to know Chuck and Quinn, not just on the plane ride and dinner, but we spent hours together. I think that Florida trip was the longest trip, but that's what I enjoy much about football and the broadcast team. You know, we all love Razorback football. We all want it to be great, but most importantly, I have the opportunity to work with great individuals that's good at their craft, but most importantly, they're great men and great men of character, and that's what I enjoy the most.
Geno, looking forward to doing it with you tomorrow at Razorback Stadium, Arkansas versus Georgia Southern. And bring your dancing shoes, because I know you're always ready to moonwalk across the field.
Oh, yeah, definitely ready to move and feel. I just want to say, since you've been on the broadcast, you've been a breath of fresh air. Appreciate everything you're doing and your preparation, and you make all of us better. So I look forward to working with you. It's been great, but I also look forward to the rest of the season. So you have a great day, Phil.
You too, Geno. Appreciate that very much.
Thanks, Geno.
It's Geno Bell from the Arkansas Football Radio broadcast. We're brought to you by The Fence Man. If you're in a business that needs a little more security or just want it to look better, a new fence from The Fence Man can do both of those things. They've been in business for more than 40 years, custom installing all types of fencing, gates, and controlled access for your business. The Fence Man also features 18-month same-as-cash financing. 479-782-3936 for The Fence Man. He ain't afraid of no work. Wrapping up halftime with some football picks for the weekend.
It's that time of the year again, and all eyes are now turning to football as teams are back on the gridiron to start the football season. As always, BetOnline is your #1 spot for all of the pro and college football action this season. Get all of the updated odds, props, and contests, including the online's biggest $500,000 NFL Mega Contest, the world's largest 200,000 NFL Survivor Contest, open now at BetOnline. Here's what you have to do. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 100% welcome bonus. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts.